Hi, Professor. This is Christopher Garcia. This is our cyb610 assignment for our Lab 3, our first hack part 1. As we kind of go through, we're seeing our Nmap scan, and what we're doing here is conducting the enumeration of the Cyoptics 1 machine, and that's going over host discovery. For the Kali box, I was able to scan that, and that was the 192.168.56.100. So in that second screenshot, you're looking at the second box, which is the Cyoptics 1, which is the .01 machine, with showing what ports are open and what vulnerabilities we might have in a less detailed manner. We were able to pull up our Cyoptics box webpage and the source page here. We didn't go through that as much, which I'm sure there is some vulnerabilities there. As we moved on to the next part, we finished the scan that we went over in our lab, which is more detailed examples of the port and being able to go over that. As we kind of look a little deeper into this, we kind of see some areas that we're showing some vulnerabilities. Obviously, the 22 TCP open SH port, or port 22, had a outdated update, and so we'll kind of look at that a little later, and then we kind of go through this other map. So when we go through the map scans, we kind of go through, and then some 3 additional ones that I did run. I was able to run our top 20 ports just to see any more detail on there. And then from there, we went through our SV, which is our protocol, which shows our cookies echo scan, and it's to see if any ports are opened or closed. As we kind of go through that, then we go through. And on this last picture, I accidentally loaded the same one, which I'll edit afterwards, but that one was a skip trace scan to see if what was communicating with our Nmap scan in the machine that we're working on, which is the Cyoptics 1, and I'll update that as we kind of get a little deeper. As far as what we're looking at for high flaw hypothesis method, some key points that we're looking at here is analyzing the weakness, creating a list, and prioritizing most effective exploit, so that it would be an actual test guide that you can go through and look through. And based on our findings, what we did realize was that we looked through some of the weaknesses. We saw that port 22 and port 139 were open and were either outdated or had vulnerabilities available. And so we'll kind of go into that a little more when we get to the next couple slides. As far as what our vulnerability map will look like, we'll go after their critical assets, or we'll look at the critical assets, which is data. If we're looking into a finance company, or if we're looking into something like that, what we're scanning and identifying those vulnerabilities and seeing what may be the best approach and what that vulnerable data is. And in this case, we're looking at those ports being vulnerable, and then creating a plan in place to secure those systems, which would be updating that port and closing port 139 in a sense. So as we move on to the next slide, we kind of go here, talk about how OpenSSH 2.9 P2 is out of date. What the root cause of that is the challenge response authenticator would not handle response well. So what attackers would typically do would stack overflow the process and be able to gain root privileges. And so that would be definitely something that would be clearly out of date, something that needs to be patched. And as we're looking into port 139 NetBIOS, what we're looking at is an old legacy system, insecure protocols, and which would allow unauthorized access and remote code execution from basically lack of encryption. And so what we're looking at here typically is a root cause is that it is out of date, is not encrypted, and there's no packet signing. And so, this attack for the NetBIOS on this port is either hijacked through traffic, and allows the attacker to use the system to get to sensitive data, and so that could be an issue, and expose different options for what you would need to fix that. And so typically, if you needed to close that or update it through different methods. So that's my presentation. Thank you for the time today. That is